And Matt, what's a very classic writer's trick that you get told, right? Show, don't tell. And
Mhm.
Pakman does a lot of telling, right? Where he says, "Oh, I just think what we need to do is look at all the evidence and all of these things." He's always doing that, but he's picking and choosing, just like he did, for example, when he supported a right-wing Christian coup in Bolivia, and just like he is doing right now. The idea of like, "Oh, I'm just a guy sitting in the middle, just weighing facts against each other," is bullshit. When you're sitting there letting a fucking right winger say that Palestinian advocacy is anti-Semitic and running with it. That's not somebody sitting in the middle and weighing facts. That's a very, very strong position to take. Now, we got plenty more. Should we go to the hospital, Matt?
Yeah, we can do
Um,
that now.
because this is something that someone like Pakman, of course, was going to have a field day with. These people, they got too many emotions and they're so passionate, and they weren't waiting for the cold hard facts to come in. So again, and this is not us even clipping things that we find horrendous, and stuff. This is stuff he's putting out into the world, wanting more people to see. So let's just see what he says here.
Right now, we have democratic countries who, if they make a mistake or lie, are subject to negative consequences, saying this wasn't Israel.
So just quick context. We're talking about the bombing of the hospital in Gaza. Let's just note two things here before we even get any further, because the other stuff is what we're probably going to respond to the most. Two democratic countries. The two democratic countries he's talking about is Israel, a literal apartheid state that denies the humanity and the human rights of Palestinian people, and the United States of America, which, if you watch the main show today, Matt was talking about how the United States of America bombed hospitals. And
oh yeah, we had to pay a price for it. That price was $6,000 a dead body. That is, I mean, a bargain and a half. And some of those were surgeons.
So these true democratic countries, those are the ones you should listen to. America, with its history of atrocities, covering those up, and
democracy.
Israel, a state.
Which, by the way, like I love the like incongruity between America, the democracy, ourselves. Like, not to mention apartheid state Israel. But America, where we just have a newly crowned Speaker of the House that denies that the current president is rightfully elected. Like, yeah, our democracy. Yes, let's be exporting some of this, because we clearly have so much of it here.
And Pakman would say that's a problem. But again, it's convenient to be a democracy, right?
For propaganda value.
When you're using propaganda. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right.
Information, radar, audio, video. Internal assessments agree. This was not Israel. On the other hand, you have a terrorist.
I'm sorry. I really got to jump in there immediately, because that audio was immediately questioned. And like Channel 4 in the UK, two independent Arab speakers confirmed it. Now, think of what is revealed in that disclosure by the Channel 4. I imagine they went to one Muslim and said, "Hey, does this sound legit?" And it's like, "No, clearly not. This is fucking ludicrous. The channels are weird. Like, they're saying the bombs came from two different locations,
and the accents are bizarre." Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so Channel 4 says, "Gonna get a second opinion from other Muslim over here, independent of you, because I don't trust your ass." And guess what? That second one also said that, right? I just think it's important to note, like, how casually that can be dismissed. Probably there was a little bit of racism experienced by the people producing this reporting. And I think Pakman is entirely acting like it doesn't exist, because, you know what, it's just Muslims that said that, or Al Jazeera said that. And we should note that the Al Jazeera reporting, based on, and look, a lot of this, I'm not a missiles expert and I don't know how to assess missiles expert, but what I can say is that the Al Jazeera reporting that was initially poo-pooed based on tying to the Iron Dome stuff, there's new disclosures by the former Bellingcat guy, Eric Toller, now with the New York Times.
We're going to go
which is
in a second.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
Group with no checks and balances and no consequences for lying saying it was Israel. And if you don't believe that there's no consequences to lying, there are still members of Congress who on Monday tweeted Israel killed 500 people at a Gaza hospital. Now that it's abundantly clear that it wasn't Israel, they have not deleted their tweets. Some of them have even doubled down.
That's a lie.
So certainty here, again, chastising people for
Abundant.
having some certainty. And look, I mean, look, in Pakman's defense, Matt, I will say, look, there's tremendous amounts of uncertainty, right? And
Well, one
uh,
thing that isn't certain is that even Joe Biden wasn't saying it's abundantly clear. Look, like all knowledge is
yeah,
provisional. If a missile expert came in, but like what to me looked like happened is Joe Biden was already on a plane there, and they needed to have a fig leaf to cover it. So he gets there, we get like, oh, this is actually a misfire, despite what I've said, which is that this is like the situation where you have an alibi for something and you have to produce fake evidence for it, which is what that audio that Pakman cited was. And then you also, for the crime that you have an alibi for, you also called that place up and told them that you were going to do that exact crime. And then after the crime happened, you celebrated the crime, and then you're committing to do that exact crime elsewhere. Go ahead, David.
and so just really fast. In fairness to Pacman, he has said like, oh, there's been questions about the veracity of the audio, but also everything else proves that this is abundantly clear. And I wasn't jumping in a second ago to defend his position. I was saying what he's chastising people for is he's saying you're going into this with preconceived notions and you're reacting to a story without all the facts. And then he literally does it. He literally is like, oh, this is abundantly clear. I believe all of this bullshit. And then that story begins to unravel extremely fucking fast. So what
Yes.
Pacman is accusing other people of doing, right, is, hoping that facts sort of line up with their preconceived notions is literally what he ends up doing in this clip and in his other reporting on the hospital bombing in Gaza, right? Which is saying, but now it's the democracy of Israel, the democracy of the United States are saying this kind of thing. So I believe it. But look, people on this program have probably seen the Channel 4 news report. But let's look at the New York Times reporting here. A close look at some key evidence in the Gaza hospital blast. A widely cited missile video does not shed light on what happened. A Times analysis concludes. So if you go here, they have this video of Al Jazeera footage showing projectile launch from Israel. A projectile launch from Israel. I will say that again, right? So the idea again that this was the PIG or Hamas firing this rocket. No, this rocket in this video came from Israel, right? So already we're in trouble here with this narrative that has been pushed.
Which is not the first time even that one of these so-called evidence things was dismissed. They had early, as my memory serves, they were suggesting one that they had to delete from Twitter, the official IDF account, because it turned out that that was from like 40 minutes after the fact or before the fact or something like that.
And so what ends up coming out of this New York Times investigation is that here's the hospital. Here's where it seems that the missile came from, right? It also is very clear, according to the New York Times analysis, that the missile itself exploded 2 miles up in the air. So that missile in that video that everybody has been arguing about and getting into is not the missile that was responsible for the explosion in Gaza. Now, the New York Times does not come out and say definitively that Israel was behind it, but they do come out and note the fact that there were multiple bombings from Israel of areas within range of the hospital as that was going on. So shut the fuck up, David, about something being abundantly clear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and I think that would require a retraction on Twitter, I think, because Pakman hasn't been super active during this period, but he did say, on the 18th, I've waited before commenting to gather more facts. Bluff. This is bluster. But now it seems as though people are protesting the U.S. Embassy in Lebanon because of incorrect allegations that Israel bombed a Gaza hospital, even though it was actually errant rockets launched by Palestinian Islamic Jihad. So again, we are blaming the protests on misinformation. If people just knew the straight facts, then everyone would be actually okay with Israel and how they're responding to this. And he said, continued, it seems there's going to be no accountability. A lot of people who talk about accountability, I think, are full of fucking shit. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
for another time.
Well, I mean, let's talk a
Let me
little bit
just
about yeah.
I'll just finish reading this tweet. It seems there's going to be no accountability for some of the most unhinged claims about the hospital attack. Like there was abundant evidence made yesterday on Twitter by some, which were based on the original claims made by Hamas itself, which we now know to be false. Has anyone issued corrections? Well, I can tell you, David Pakman has not.
And he obviously also denies the death toll. No matter who's responsible
Of course,
for it.
Uncle Sam. Yeah.
But let's talk about accountability here really fast.
Now that it's abundantly
I want to play this last.
Monday tweeted, Israel killed 500 people at a Gaza hospital. Now that it's
So he's calling on Rashida Tlaib and trying to get his audience members to get worked about Rashida Tlaib. Again, what we talked about earlier is in a moment like this, particularly look, you're a commentator talking to Pakman, us too, right? We're not doing the groundbreaking reporting or anything like that. So the question you have to ask yourself at the end of the day when you do this on topics like this is what am I putting out there into the world, right? Am I putting out? I mean, Pakman would say sanity and common sense, right? Bullshit.
Mhm.
Let's talk for a second about Rashida Tlaib, somebody who has been a target of some of the most heinous attacks. People
Yep.
trying to remove an elected official from Congress, attacking her, and also people who support her, other democratically elected officials in the United States, who followed in her lead on things. I think it's a pretty fucking disgusting thing to do in the United States of America right now, particularly when you saw the vitriol that led that psychopath to kill that young boy, that young
Yeah.
Palestinian child, to sit here and try to sick people on Rashida Tlaib for something that is bullshit, and you know it too. And to sit here and talk about certainty and all this stuff, and to attack somebody like Rashida Tlaib is frankly disgusting.
Yeah. Pathetic. And it shows I don't know, like an interestedness, or like I don't know if he's has a very like a if his audience would be upset if he. I don't know what the Pac-Man audience is like anymore, to be honest. Like I listened to Pac-Man back in
It's a bunch
2014.
of reasonable gentlemen, man.
Yeah, exactly. I wonder how reasonable this is. I mean, I'll be reasonable when that many kids are dead.
It's just so fucking disgusting. So let's before we get to more of maybe the political. I mean, this is all political, but let's get back to conflation too. What's happening in the United States of America? Not to make it all about us, but what is happening to people in the United States of America right now who are saying, "Hey, I don't want my country to support mass slaughter of Gazans. I think that's disgusting, and I want that to end." What is happening to those people, Matt? Are they being embraced by the media? Are they being embraced by the government? I mean, you
Being
have Joe
fired.
Biden literally talking about Palestinian activists in this country as disgusting. That's the message that people in this country who are citizens are part of this country just as much as anyone else. That's the message that they're getting from this government. What are people, what are people dealing with at work? People are getting fired. People are getting blacklisted. Students are being targeted and harassed and attacked again for saying, I don't think that we should do mass slaughter of human beings, right? That's the crime that they've done. That's what's happening to people in this country who are advocating for Palestinians. Let's see how he wants to talk about these folks and wonder what this might encourage in this kind of context.
There is a disturbing overlap happening between anti-Israeli left-wing accounts and anti-Semitic far-right accounts. It's really disturbing to witness. There are far-right accounts that are just overtly anti-Semitic. They just hate Jews. They are using this moment and this layer of propaganda to rebrand themselves almost as if they are pro-Palestinian. Of course, they're not, but it's helping them, okay? And there are it's like a Venn diagram, and there's an overlap in the middle between the anti-Semitic right and the anti-Israeli left that is really disturbing. And I think most of my
I mean, is most of your audience fucking babies? Because what was that? That was, I'm very disturbed. There's disturbing things out there. There's some bad guys out there that they think bad things and want to do bad stuff. And actually, there's some people we thought were the good guys, but actually they're on the side of the bad guys. And I'm very scared. You should be scared too. I think we're all scared. That's all that was.
So he, just for clarity, because I'm not going to subject everybody to watching these full 15-minute videos. There's no evidence here. That is actually what he basically says after alleging that everyone is wrong about the Gaza hospital. Right? That's what follows that up immediately. There's
It's
no
anti-Semitism.
evidence or anything. So and like again, let's be really clear about what he's saying here because it is fucking absolutely disgusting. He is saying that people who are saying, I do not want Gazans to be slaughtered, are inadvertently, right? Oh, very kind of you, David. Inadvertently opening up the door for the far right Nazis to attack people, right? It's a really heinous claim to make, especially without evidence.
Yeah.
Um,
I think there's
but
more
there wouldn't be
evidence.
any evidence because it's bullshit.
Yeah, no, I think there's far more evidence that Israel itself and the policy and the sort of structure that it has decided to follow, and it is insistence through its state propaganda channels that the nation itself is synonymous with Jewish people. I think that is contributing to anti-Semitism. I will blame Israel. I will. That is, I did not see that as blaming the victim, no matter how much people want to try to present it like that. I think this is a huge, huge fucking problem. When all these people say you're either we have again, we had Ilan Papi on talking about he had to leave Haifa in the 2000s because people thought he was a self-hating Jew. I think it's fucking despicable. I stand with those people. And I think this sort of erasure of that stuff is disgusting. And it should, Pakman, I believe, unless my memory's faulty, said, like, I just won't touch Israel-Palestine because people don't like when I do. He should just not touch it because this type of handling
No, I
of
think
it
he
is
should touch it and expose what he
fair
did.
enough. Yeah.
No, come out there and be honest, man. Tell everybody
Yeah.
what you really think here, because I think he's even being more cowardly. Even in these clips where it's sort of disgusting enough, I don't think he's even following through and finishing his thought fully.
Yeah.
I mean, he has a whole he figured out he has a whole video on solving the Israel-Palestine crisis, and what it is. It's insane concessions from the Palestinians. Territorial and legal concessions to Israel. We're going to have some vintage Pac-Man to play in a second, but just keep it contemporary for a second. Let's see what he's saying about old Joe, somebody who has been a cheerleader for this mass slaughter.
Water was shut off. I was against that. It's back on thanks to Joe Biden. Reminds us of the importance of who we elect president.
So I'm sorry. I've just spent too much time watching fucking Pac-Man videos the past couple of days. I just have to make a point. If you watch a lot of these, this is his move constantly, which is to say, I don't like Bibi Netanyahu. I don't like the settlements. I don't like this or that. So it's like trying to wash my hands of what the result of the things that I do support are creating. Right. So yes, playing the role that you are playing right now is 100% opening up opportunities for the Israeli government to shut off water. You have to be so fucking naive to sit here and think that you can advocate for what you're advocating for, say what you're saying, and act like, oh, I'm not a part of that, right? It's extremely fucking cowardly. I prefer, frankly, the monstrous right wingers who say the Palestinians deserve this, Israel should do whatever, than this kind of fucking weaselly shit where you're saying, oh, I think it's horrible, all the things that are happening, but also I support the conditions that are creating this circumstance.
No, that's another good point, and I've been watching a lot of Pappy videos, and he talks about that exact dynamic. He's like, when I talk to Israelis on the right wing, it's much more sane conversation because they don't deny things. They just say, yeah, that's what we did. It's because good that we did that, and the liberals deny it. And I would challenge Pakman. Have somebody like Pappy on, have even fucking Barnaby Rain on, have somebody on to pierce this bubble that you are maintaining consciously, and everybody sees it, and it's crowding. I mean, like this judgment, this whole sort of like branding of I'm the judicious reason guy, it's blown.
Mhm.
I mean, not that it wasn't after Bolivia.
No, I mean, but I mean, for real, 'cause, I will just say, anecdotally, whenever we've done any kind of thing about Pac-Man, we haven't really done like a big Pac-Man segment or anything like that. But I'll mention like, hey, you guys should remember what these fucking left wing or supposedly left wing podcasters are saying about stuff because it's really telling what their actual positions are, the way that they treat other countries. And people be like, oh, well, why are you getting mad at him? We're all on the same side. No, we're not. We are not at all on the same side. Somebody like this who is willing to witness this kind of inhumanity, and yes, we'll say, "Oh, I really hate seeing it. It makes me sad to see," but supports the conditions that create this kind of circumstance is not on my side. This is also somebody who I wouldn't trust in any kind of political moment when the going gets tough. Um, in this country, people show you who they are, and it's really telling. But let's hear him fucking talk about Joe Biden for a second.
Water was shut off. I was against that. It's back on thanks to Joe Biden. Reminds us of the importance of who we elect president. Do you believe that Trump would have pressured Israel to turn the Gazan water back on? No. Reminds us of the importance of who we elect here. There was this 24-hour warning given to Gazans to leave. Of course, leave to go where? They can go south, but obviously Egypt doesn't want them crossing the border either.
Sorry.
So it was...
This is sorry. I mean, let's let him finish. I don't want to cut him off before if he's going to address what I'm about to object to.
However, the 24 hours went by. As of this moment, there has not been this massive ground assault, which is good because I would be against that. But hundreds of thousands of Palestinians did move south, even though Hamas, completely disregarding their safety, said simply stay.
Safety.
So they're bombing the south.
Yeah.
Right.
They're bombing the Rafah crossing.
Yep.
And my God. So Joe Biden helped them get the water back on. By the way, Israel has fucking decimated the infrastructure in Palestine. So you turn on the taps, where can they go? The people they have limited electricity. That's how those things work. You can't pump water around. It's bullshit. Oh my God. Joe Biden, I guess, somehow miraculously stopped not stopped, by the way. Let's be very clear about this. Delayed a mass ground invasion, which will be a bloodbath and slaughter of thousands of Palestinians.
Yeah, who knows how much of that is them, Israel not actually being ready for a ground invasion because they're caught with their fucking pants down and wanting to give maybe Joe Biden some credit. Like I would anticipate, and look, I would take that if this forestalls a ground invasion and Biden is able to be like, oh, that was all me. I don't know that I'll necessarily believe it. I think that's something to be pointed out for. But like, again, like the evidence for this stuff is super slim that we're getting any sort of return on this. That like again, like I said, like that can all be explained by what is Israel's prerogative.
No, I mean it's insanely disgusting, and also, what the fuck are you talking about? Joe Biden's been doing. I mean, Joe Biden has been allowing the United States is one of the biggest advocates and defenders of Israel, protecting them from all the international demands that they implement a ceasefire.